All right, so thanks. And now on to a very brief introduction for Carl. I have had the pleasure of knowing Carl really over the last few months. Was the pleasure. The hard work was the 15 months before that. But in any case, I've been able to take care of him now for the last couple of years. I'll let him tell you his story. But Carl is a very interesting person. And while we normally think of somebody who's a judge and has been a judge for his entire, not his entire career, but much of his career, we tend to think of people who are pretty stern and pretty dour. Well, that's not Judge Carl Fox. And that's not to say that he can't be stern and dour on the bar, but I can tell you that outside the bar, that's not his persona. And to give you a little bit of a vignette as to what Carl is like, after Carl had been in the hospital for over a month getting his transplant, he then came to the clinic. And so the first day he came to the clinic, he showed up, and several people came up to me afterwards and said, you know, Dr. Shea, we're really concerned because there are a lot of people that were out, you know, talking to Carl while I was in the waiting room, and, you know, we're a little worried about his privacy, and you know, this is a pretty intense time for him, and so on and so forth. So I talked to the clinic manager, and I said, kind of relayed that story to her. And so she came back to me later in the day, and she said, well, part of the reason that there were so many people around Judge Fox was because he showed up with a box of these T-shirts. Okay? And so, one thing Carl is not is shy. And so, and it wasn't that he was touting his own story, but he's used his story in order to remind people how critical it is that when they have the opportunity to provide stem cells or organs for people who are in need of them, that's a really important process, and it's really integral to what we do. So Carl and Julia and others have gone out of their way over the last couple of years to really help to heighten the awareness of this community to the need to be a donor for stem cells, bone marrow, and other organs. And so for that, I am deeply appreciative of Carl, because without people like Carl that are pushing the envelope, we wouldn't have the donors that allow us to have the good results that we're going to be hearing about tonight. But for that, I think that we should all be very grateful. And if you have an opportunity or want to learn more about it, then I can certainly help you with that. But in any case, I don't want to spend too much additional time. We've got other things to do this evening, and without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce Judge Carl Fox, who is a patient of mine and, more importantly, an elected representative of you folks. So, Carl.
You know, good evening. Let me say that first. It's a real blessing. First, I want you to know I got a timer up here, so I don't want to quit. Second, I want you to know that it's a real pleasure to be with you. When you have a doctor tell you that your life expectancy is going to be affected and that you may have 3 months or less to live, it puts everything in perspective for you. I have to say, before I was diagnosed, I was telling this story. Some of you may have seen this skit if you watch Saturday Night Live or not. There was a skit long before Alec Baldwin was doing Donald Trump. He did a skit one time he was hosting Saturday Night Live where he was talking about, he was a doctor in a soap opera talking to a patient. Well, when I was a student at UNC, and I am a 2-time grad of UNC, and I want to say, go Heels, beat Virginia, okay? Gosh, you don't know about the days when you used to have to sit in line at Carmichael and have someone hold your place to get tickets to those games. I tell you, those were rough times. Class, game, class, game. It was tough. It was so Alec did this skit, And I used to be on the bowling team, so I used to go by the TV in the Union every day where people would be gathered to watch The Young and the Restless. I hate soap operas, just so you know that. You could watch it a month from now and know exactly what happened from the day you watched it 2 weeks ago. And I used to hate this part when they would be watching this. On Friday, it always happened. The doctor would look at the patient and go, "If we'd only caught this in time." And there'd be this cut between them and the patient. Them, the patient. And I thought, oh, I never want to have a doctor say that to me. So I went right to student health, and I've been going to the doctor ever since. And I learned that that doesn't necessarily save you. But this skit was, he was playing this doctor. He said, you know, I haven't seen a case like this since I graduated from Yale Medical School. He said, this is a very perplexing case. And the patient said, well, you know, what's wrong, doctor? He said, well, you have a polyp on your colon. I said, is that bad, doctor? He said, very. We have to test it, and the results will tell us whether it's benign or malignant. And he said, well, doctor, when will you know? He said, we won't know for a while, but let's just hope it's benign. I told that so many times, I blamed that skit for my cancer. I said, I shouldn't have told that skit as many times as I did. You know, I'll tell you that the day you find out that you have cancer is a very sobering moment. How many of you are survivors of cancer? Raise your hands. Yeah. How many of you know someone who has survived cancer? Okay. Yeah, you know, it's a very scary thing. My mother had cancer, but it wasn't why she died. My sister was first diagnosed with cancer in 1996, and she is now, I wouldn't have given her 6 months when that happened. She is now a 20-year survivor of cancer. That's how far we've come. My girlfriend, my fiance, Julia, is a cancer survivor. You know, it strikes more and more people every day. You know, cancer is worse than, let's see, getting that membership card from AARP when you turn 50, worse than turning 60, which was the birthday. People turning 30 and 40, that's nothing. So now you turn 60, that's a birthday. It's worse than, I don't know, it's worse than getting your first senior citizen discount. And, but it beats the crap out of death, let me tell you. My cancer started out with a limp, which Julia and her dad, who's a pediatrician, told me I had. And I said, no, I'm not limping. I'm not limping. And then it came down to a bump on my right leg that wasn't a hematoma, and ended up leading to a blood test, which had me cancel court and go into the hospital, only to find out I had a dangerously low level of platelets. And from that, it led to infusions every week of platelets, and then later of blood. And I thought, well, those could be my salvation. And by that time, I'd gone from the hematology clinic to the oncology clinic. And when they tell you to go to the oncology clinic, you know things have taken a really bad turn. It's like that turn that Bugs Bunny used to talk about on his car commercial. You take a wrong turn at Albuquerque. That's a wrong turn at Albuquerque for you, let me tell you. That's like turning off your GPS, throwing the map out the window, making it dark, and trying to find some place you've never been to. And I remember when Dr. Zeidner was telling me that I might have as little as 3 months to live because I kept getting infections. And one of those infections, I had sepsis, and I nearly died. And and I got transferred to oncology, and at first I didn't have a match. And if you know anything about the registry, only 7% of the registry is African American. I know these statistics now. 7% is African American, 7% is Asian American, 4% is Hispanic, and the rest, that remaining little percentage of 20% is American, Indian, and others. And so while my match didn't have to come from someone African American, it was more likely to come from someone African American. And when you start making your final plans, when you look on there and you see that you don't have a match and the prospects are not very good. So I was receiving this azacitidine injection, and I thought, well, when you're a public official, you're not going to have a private life with cancer. It's not going to happen. There'll be rumors about what's going on with you, and they may be worse than the reality. So I decided I was going to have this very public fight with cancer. And I went on Facebook and started that fight. And then thanks to the graciousness of UNC hospitals, the media came in and interviewed me while I was getting infusions and while I was getting after my transplant before it. And I decided to keep people updated. And what I didn't know is that when you do that, people who have cancer that you don't even know or had cancer will come to you and say, I know you didn't know this, but I have cancer. I'm like, no. I mean, it's not like something like you have a Geiger counter and you detect it when someone's around you. You can't do that. And people say, well, I've had cancer. And I just sort of thought, wow, I felt like a cleric. I mean, I should have had a collar. Everybody's telling me they have cancer. I felt, okay. I sort of like the cancer crisis line at some point. I have cancer. I got my own cancer to deal with. And, but it was interesting. And I felt like, for some reason, that God was trying to tell me something, and that there was something I needed to do. And in the midst of all that, I talked with Julia, and we decided to start this charitable organization called Save the Fox. And it's sort of a misnomer in the sense that we weren't trying really to save me. I knew the prospects of finding a match for me were not that great. But I thought if we could save one or two of those 14,000 people on the registry, then we will have accomplished something, and my life wouldn't be in vain. And it turned out that we have signed up to date over 4,000 people on the registry. And that people that delete blood cancer told us that for some reason that the number of people registering had gone up around the country by 50%. And they said the only thing we can attribute it to is the publicity from your cancer. And I'm hoping one day it will be like registering to be a organ donor, that it'll be something you can sign up for on your license. Because let me tell you, Europe is way ahead of us on signing up people on the registry for donors. But I'll tell you, it was the one thing I'm really proud of, and this is sort of like in my work as a prosecutor and as a judge. I'm not really proud of the people I put in prison, the people I convicted. What I'm really proud of is the people who were interns who are now lawyers and judges and have gone on to great careers, the people that I gave a break to who are now running corporations and professors and that kind of stuff that I never could have seen. And what I'm really proud of throughout this is that we have had over, at least last count, at least 13 matches out of those 4,000 people. And who could ever have thought? I mean, I learned a lot of stuff that I never knew. Who could have ever have thought? Now, Dr. Shea knows this, and after we founded Save the Fox, something miraculous happened. In May, I had no prospects. In August, Dr. Shea told me that we had an umbilical cord stem cell match, and it was only a 4 out of 6, which is the baseline on it. But did we want to go with it? I may not know enough math and be good enough and proficient enough at it to be a physicist. And when I watch The Big Bang Theory, when they're writing stuff on the board, they might as well be writing Chinese on that board. I have no idea what they're talking about. But I could calculate the percentage, the chances that I was going to have an unrelated donor match. They call that a MUD. I knew that was not likely to happen. So I said, let's go with this. And we did. And one of the types was my exact blood type. And who could have thought? Now, this is the kind of thing you fund. Who could have thought that you could take the umbilical cord of a child, cryogenically freeze it, and later on harvest it, the stem cells from it, send those stem cells to another medical center and treat them and put them into a person's body, and they would find your marrow after chemo and radiation, which is sort of like a flatline medium at that point, and know enough to go right to that marrow, set up their little shop, and start producing cells. I mean, it is just amazing. 20 years ago, I wouldn't be here, I don't think. But that went from a small number of cells produced to my numbers were just checked yesterday. They're all normal. They're all normal. And they've been that way since I was discharged from the hospital. Let me just tell you, cancer is the worst diet ever. It's the worst diet ever. I mean, I lost my sense of taste. I suddenly hated chicken. And the thing is, people were bringing me more chicken soup than you could possibly consume. Everyone was saying, here's some chicken soup. This will help you. And I'd go like, thanks. And they'd say, try it. I'm going, oh, I'm not hungry right now. I can't try it at this moment. I learned that chicken soup doesn't cure everything. I learned that, and they don't tell you this, that I went from like 170 pounds when I was admitted down to 130. I was so small that Julia had someone take a photo of us when I was discharged from the hospital. And I looked at it and I said, I know that's you, but who's that Kenyan marathon runner standing next to you? I had no idea. I had not a clue. And but I learned that that stem cell umbilical cord match saved my life. Between God's blessings and UNC Lineberger Cancer Center and the doctor who I have the utmost respect for, Dr. Thomas Shea, my doctor, and I can't say enough about him, and Dr. Josh Seidner, who at times could be as tough as nails, but has a heart really of gold. Those two, I mean, if I called them and had a question, they would answer it. And you need a lot of reassurance, because when you first get cancer, the first question that I hope everyone asks, and that's what I asked, is why me? Why me? And I'm only here because of that, and because of Julia, who saw that I had round-the-clock care for the days, 60 days afterwards to make it to 100 days. You know, when you spend 6 weeks in the hospital, a lot of stuff passes you by. If you don't, it teaches you one thing, that if you don't stay active when you retire, and retirement did occur to me at the time, but if you don't stay active, your mind goes to crap. It just goes to crap. And they have people to help you stay active. I mean, we are fortunate enough to have a world-class medical center, and based upon the ratings, and believe me, I was at the 1974 game, Duke-Carolina game, when we were 8 points down, came back from 8 points with 18 seconds left to tie that game and win that game. So beating Duke is real important. So it's really great to be rated higher than that. Dr. Earp came by to see me. Dr. Earp came by to see me when I was in the hospital. I mean, I had so many visitors. I can't tell you the number of people I had praying for me, churches I had praying for me, and it meant so much to me. And I have to tell you, when I was there, people told me about all other medical centers around the world that I could go to, and they thought I could receive better medical care. And you know, I read about them and everything like that. But you know, one of the things you can't discount is having friends, having support, having people who believe in you, people praying for you, people coming to see you. How important that intangible thing is. Because there are really times when you're literally in a black hole trying to decide which way is up and if you're going to survive. And that was real important back at that time. And you know what? I have never regretted for one moment staying at UNC hospitals. I mean, it's like between the infusion center, the bone marrow transplant clinic, the bone marrow unit, and my physicians, they have become my second family. They have become literally my second family. I owe my life to them. And, you know, I was trying to go to work every day, and I did. I worked for a lot of that time, and I went back to work in July, probably 3 months ahead of when Dr. Shea thought I would go back to work. He asked me the other day, "Are you working full time?" I said, well, I sort of have since July. It's sort of like we went to Jonesboro, Arkansas one time, and we just got back from Marco Island, Florida, and one of the horrible things I learned in Florida is you cannot get sweet tea in Florida. Southernmost state in the country, and you can't get sweet tea anywhere. Oh yeah, it really is. And Dr. Shea said this to me. He said, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, and that's true. But I'll say this, and your dollars, and we're givers to this center as well. Your dollars, you may not ever know this, you can't, if you're there for a day, you'll get on the elevator with kids. Two of my best friends are an 8-year-old named Emma and a 10-year-old named Howell, whose nickname affectionately is HB3. I said, "Howell, what's this HB3 about? What is that?" He goes, and he said his name, and he's the third, and he said, "That's why it's HB3. I said, "Cute. But you get on the elevator with kids who are 2 years old, 3 years old, and have their little caps on, and you wonder why them. And you see kids. I know kids who are friends of friends, and they're living because of you. They're alive because of you. You may think, what are we accomplishing sometimes? You may wonder about what it is that goes on there, but what goes on there is life-saving. And what happened to me could happen to any one of you. And I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for providing the money for the research that goes on at UNC hospitals. Thank you for providing the money that allows us to have nice rooms to be confined in for weeks at a time and give us hope. Thank you for the dollars that you give to save people from this small to this tall, from 2 to 70. You are the reason we're here. And without you, they couldn't accomplish what they need to do, and they couldn't save people like me. So I want you to leave here not only thinking about the game and beating Virginia, but about how grateful more people than you can ever know, thousands, maybe millions of people are for everything you are doing for Lineberger Cancer Center. So it's been a pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you for saving my life.